Prior to the late 1950s and early 1960s, there was an area of Dothan, Alabama that was mostly inhabited by African Americans, known as the Southside, but was also referred to as Frogtown. It was a community made up of residential homes, churches, a school, a few businesses, but mostly the lives and livelihoods of many of the black people in Dothan. It was a close-knit community comprised of families, poverty, as well as prosperity. There were many things that could be done without leaving the neighborhood. You could go to church, shop at a store, grow your own food, go to school, or go out on the weekend and have a good time at the White Horse. Some of the residents lived in nice homes, while others lived in houses that were substandard with no electricity, no inside plumbing. Some had outdoor toilets, outhouses. Many of them would be described as run-down shacks. Most of them were located on dusty dirt roads. Little known to the residents of Southside, a major change was about to take place, which they would have little or no input into what was about to transpire. It was the beginning of what is known as urban renewal. From 1949 to 1974, the U.S. government underwrote the program known as urban renewal, the planned redevelopment and improvement of deteriorated urban areas, often involving demolishing old structures and constructing new ones. It also included the process of seizing and demolishing large swaths of private and public property for the purpose of modernizing and improving aging infrastructure. This program was implemented through a Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD grant and loan program. Much of the time, these projects split or destroyed black communities throughout the U.S. The South Side was no exception. All of its residents were forced to relocate. They didn't have a choice. Here's a former resident describing what it was like living on the South Side.
We all knew each other. We all grew up together. Our parents were always friends with each other. Some of us went to the same church, some didn't. Some went to the AME church. I went to New Bethel. And then I had one or two friends who went to the Church of God in Christ. I think we were like one big happy family. Everybody knew each other, and if somebody saw me doing something I shouldn't be doing, then of course they told my parents. They got at me first themselves. I remember growing up, I had my sister Sue, who was always very sick. She had a bad heart, and she would go to Birmingham a lot of times for treatment. And unfortunately, while she was there was no school, so she didn't go to school. So by the time I started first grade, which I started first grade when I was 5. And when I started first grade, by that year, she was able to go back to school. So we started first grade together. It was, Miss West was our first grade teacher, and Mrs. Kenny was our second and third grade teacher. I also had a big part in a play years ago. I think I was second or third grade, but I remember having the lead role in that play. After we finished third grade, we had to go to Montana Street. Now, Sue, my sister, could not walk to Montana, so my dad had to get a taxi to take us to school every day. So every day we rode to school in a taxi. And then 2 more of our friends, Mary Alice and Joanne Anderson, joined us, and they went to Montana. So we went there 4th grade. Then by the time we finished 4th grade, we had moved from Southside. We were moving from Southside to Lakeview. My dad had a new house built before we moved to Lakeview, but unfortunately, when they asked us to move, of course, that house, we had to stay over there. And then we had another house built in Lakeview, and that's when I started, I guess, Stringer Street Elementary School. It was kind of rough at first because you move into an area. Lakeview was just being developed, so there were all the roads were dirt roads. We didn't have street lights, so it was kind of dark out there at night, just like it was on Southside. And eventually, they slowly did start to pave the streets. So when they start to pave the streets, and then they put in the street lights, so then things got a little better. I was kind of sorry when we had to move, I guess because I had gotten to know everybody and we had all grown up together, and now it's like we're being separated. Some of my friends did move to Lakeview, so I still got a chance to see them. The others I didn't see until we went to church on Sundays. And then I got a chance to see everybody that I hadn't seen, while I was in school. I think the one thing that stands out when I lived there is the community, the relationships that we had over there. We were one great community. We all looked out for each other. And it was during a time when I guess everybody knew each other. My parents knew their parents, he knew everybody. So it was just one great community in Southside.
The Southside of Dothan was a community that relied on each other, filled with people who worked together to make the most of their neighborhood, regardless of the circumstances that they faced. Many of the residents moved to the east side into a newer subdivision known as Lakeview, and some are still living there. Whether you refer to it as Southside or Frogtown, it produced many fine, successful individuals, just like the one that you just saw. Today, the Southside is made up of homes mostly built in the 1960s and 70s. Many of them are now occupied by African Americans. Urban renewal may have taken away their homes, but it couldn't take away their spirit.